The air snaps like static, and the door slams itself open. A blue ripple folds the hallway, bending light like glass underwater. My ears pop. The temperature dives. Every bulb in the kitchen stretches, buzzing as time hiccups. My phone clock blinks. 9:41, 9:40, 9:41, like it's gasping for breath. Then he steps through. Same face, older eyes, steadier hands. He drops a folded New York Post on my counter, the ink still damp. The headline screams, Saturday, July 8th, 2055, tomorrow. My stomach flips before my brain can catch up. I'm Ethan Brooks, 28, standing in my Dumbo walk-up in Brooklyn, Friday, 9:42 p.m. The room still tastes like ozone, and my heart is running ahead of me. The man across from me wears my face, plus 15 years and steadier eyes. I'm you from 2055, he says, like he's reporting the weather. No kidding, I shoot back, trying for brave and landing somewhere between shaky and sarcastic. He opens the newspaper he dropped. The masthead is today. The date is tomorrow. The year points past anything I want to handle. My phone clock steadies like nothing happened. He doesn't crowd me. He studies the room the way I study a bug in code. Quiet, exact, a little sad. Stakes, he says, and taps my day planner. Promotion review at 10:30. And lunch with Maya at noon, I answer, because hearing my sister's name from his mouth already feels too intimate. Right, he says. 2 decisions that shape your year, maybe more. He slides a printout across the counter. MTA Service Advisory. York St. Partial F-line closure. Expected crowding. Minor altercation under investigation, the kind of footnote you scroll past and forget. He points at the tiny line like it's a landmine. Cool, I say. We take High St. easy. You won't, he says. You never do. Habits are rails. You like the York St. stairs because you count 23 of them out loud in your head. I laugh because I don't know what else to do. So, you time-ported here to fix my commute. I came because what you skip and what you keep tomorrow sets your next 10 years, he says. And because that minor thing isn't minor for you. Prove you're me. He lifts his sleeve. Same small scar by the wrist bone I got from a cracked cabinet hinge in college. Then he picks up my grandma's silver watch from the counter and turns it the way I do when I'm thinking. You keep it by the sink at night, he says, because you're scared you'll forget it if you tuck it in the dish. I hate that he's right, mostly because I didn't say a word. I take a step, hand out without meaning to, and he backs up fast. Don't. We've got a 1-minute rule. A what? 2 of us in the same physical minute for too long and we burn. Nosebleeds, blackouts, worse if we push it. Keep distance and timeouts and we're fine. He says it so flat it sounds like a seatbelt warning. I move to the window. The bridge grins across the river. A ferry slices the water and stitches it back together. The city looks exactly the same as always. Endless, indifferent, stupidly beautiful. I want to slam the door and rewind the night. I also want every answer he's hoarding. Tomorrow, 10:02 a.m., York St. Stairs, he says. If you're there, your whole morning derails. If you're not there, someone else pays your price. So, which do you pick, Ethan? I look at the advisory, at his older hands, at my reflection in the microwave door. If this is real, what do I give up to dodge what's coming? I live 2 blocks from the river, in a 4th-floor walk-up, where the floorboards creak, like they're clearing their throat before every step. My life is measured in tickets closed, espresso shots pulled, and the number of pancakes I can justify at the diner on York. Weekdays, I'm a support engineer at a Brooklyn fintech, half bug whisperer, half firefighter, all video calls. Nights when my brain won't shut up, I walk to the corner coffee shop and pull a few hours behind the bar. It's not for the cash so much as the rhythm, order, grind, tamp, steam, handoff. Some people run to feel real. I steam milk. Home looks like a life paused mid-sentence. My grandma's silver watch sits on a ceramic dish by the sink, the way it always does, hands locked at 11:07 p.m. No matter when I wind it, no matter how I tap the glass, it dies there like a stubborn habit. Next to it is a MetroCard receipt, tucked under a magnet shaped like the Staten Island ferry, ink fading but still readable. On the fridge, A Polaroid from last fall, me and Maya, on a paint-peeled bench near the promenade, laughing so hard we're out of frame. The 3 things I'd try to save if the apartment ever burned are all within arm's reach. Maya is the core of the part of my life that isn't screens. She's a nurse with an early shift and a serious jawline that only softens when she's talking about her patients' pets. She texts in, fragments because there's never time for full sentences. Don't be late, bro, hydrate. Wear the nice shirt tomorrow. She doesn't mother me, she just refuses to let me shrink. We do pancakes on Saturdays when her shift allows. If I flake, she forgives me, but the look in her eyes says, you chose something else again. On the other side of my wall is Mr. Alvarez, who retired from the MTA but still wakes up like he's catching the first train of the day. He knows the system like it's a living thing with moods. He'll talk about the way a station breathes when it's about to clog, or how you can hear a delay 5 minutes before anyone posts it. He wears a Yankees cap that has seen more Augusts than I have. He brings me plantains when his daughter visits. I fix his Wi-Fi when the router forgets where it put its keys. We keep each other tuned. The neighborhood soundtrack is a loop I pretend not to love. Laundry machines drumming at the corner laundromat, the squeak of a delivery bike, gulls working the river, a food truck generator purring on Old Fulton. Tourists drift past with cameras toward the carousel. I pretend I'm not one of them while I take the exact same photo of the skyline every month. The city is the best liar I know. It tells you it never changes, and then you blink. Work is a long hallway of polite chaos. I triage issues for clients who measure time in seconds and money in commas. My boss, Serena, is precise in a way that never quite touches the ground. She has a list for everything, including a list of why I should talk more in meetings. On-camera leadership, she says, like she can staple it to my forehead. Tomorrow is my performance review at 10:30. There's a bullet point about promotion potential. There's a line about stepping forward. There's a mirror I don't want to stand in front of for long. Rent is due tomorrow, which is a dumb thing to think about, when a man wearing my face just stepped through a ripple in my kitchen. But bills don't care about metaphysics. My bank app does that tasteful red that tries to be calm about bad news. I've been good. Savings, a spreadsheet, the whole adulting thing. But New York is a tax on certainty. Every month the city asks, are you sure? All week, tiny things have tapped the glass. Tuesday night, my news app pinged with a push labeled tomorrow at exactly noon, 12 hours early. It was a generic city digest, nothing urgent, but the timing was wrong enough to lodge in my teeth. I told myself the servers coughed. Then Wednesday, my calendar duplicated a meeting and then swallowed it back down. Thursday, my train pulled in lit with the wrong destination sign for one stop, like the system had dreamed of being somewhere else. I am a professional explainer of glitches. I explained them away. My habits are rails. I take the same F-line stairs, count the same 23 steps under my breath, grab the same coffee from the same cart, whose owner calls me Brooklyn, even though we both know that's not a name. I tell myself the routine is focus, not fear. I tell myself I could change it any time. Then I don't. The theme that rolls around my skull even before tonight is simple and mean. Choice versus cost. How much of today can you trade for a safer tomorrow and still recognize the person you kept? I've watched people at work choose the version of themselves with the biggest title. I've watched patients' families in Maya's stories choose to sit all night for one more hour that might not come. Every trade teaches you a little about your price. I've been pretending I don't have one. There is a part of me that loves pancakes too much for any of this to matter. Saturday is supposed to be diner coffee in thick white mugs and the kind of eggs that come with judgment. It's supposed to be Maya rolling her eyes at the way I fold napkins like they're source code. It's supposed to be a walk on the promenade where the skyline makes promises it has no intention of keeping, and then I go home and put on the nice shirt and try not to sweat through it before 10:30. Tonight, after the headline and the claim and the rules I didn't ask to hear, I do inventory like I'm afraid of forgetting how to be myself. The watch, the receipt, the Polaroid, the Yankees cap hanging on my hook because Mr. Alvarez insisted a New Yorker should have one, even if it's mostly for hanging. The second set of keys taped under the sink, the busted lamp I keep meaning to fix, The stupid chipped mug that makes coffee taste like the first sentence of a better day. Serena's reminder email is parked at the top of my inbox. Tomorrow, on-camera leadership. Bring examples of outcomes and times you made the call. She wants bullet points that look like a ladder. I have bullet points that look like I almost climbed it. I can already hear the part where she says, "You're ready if you decide you are." I can also hear the part where she says, "We'll revisit this next quarter." Maya's text lands now, late and still warm. "Don't be late, bro." She adds an emoji that looks like an exhausted smile and then sends a photo of her shoes kicked off under a folding chair. I picture her eating cold fries between alarms. I tell her, I'll be there. I don't tell her I just met the future on my kitchen tile. She'll hear it and she'll worry, and she'll come over and make tea and sit until the sun, and I need her to sleep. I check the door, like a lock means anything to a person who walks through minutes, not rooms. I check the windows because ritual is a leash for panic. I breathe until the number of breaths feels like a code I almost remember. Normal is a jacket I shrug back on. It doesn't fit, but it warms. By the time I brush my teeth, the mirror has settled into its usual lies. My life is the same life it was an hour ago, I tell myself. Same job, same apartment, same sister, same tired watch that refuses to move past 11:07. Tomorrow is just another Saturday that asks the same questions. Will you show up? Will you choose the risk that keeps the people you love okay? Will you take the stairs you always take because the rails are comfortable? Or will you step left once and see if the world still knows your name? Rent is due. Promotion is possible. Pancakes are waiting. And somewhere between my front door and the third turnstile at York, a minute is already sharpening its teeth. He flips the paper to the police blotter, taps a small column like it's a detonator, and reads it out the way a nurse reads a chart. Saturday, 10:02 a.m. York Street disturbance. Bystander detained. My stomach tightens as if the room just dropped a floor. There's a grainy photo under the line. My hoodie, my stupid coffee cup with the blue heat sleeve. The same cup I'm holding now. Same tilt of the wrist. Same shadow under my chin. The angle is from the stairwell camera, high and indifferent. The caption is just time and place, like the universe signing its name. He doesn't say I told you so. He flips another page. A business section snippet with my company's logo sits in a sidebar like a shrug. Internal review postponed indefinitely following personnel incident, it says in the kind of calm that makes your heart pound. Tomorrow's date. My name isn't printed, but it doesn't have to be. I can see the path from a pair of hands on a stranger's shoulders to a calendar invite evaporating. That's not proof, I hear myself say, because denial is muscle memory. Could be anyone in a grey hoodie with a caffeine problem. He nods once like he's granting me the dignity of a last doubt. Say the words out loud if you need them, he says, but look at your left cuff. I do. A faint dark crescent where I spilled espresso this afternoon. In the photo, the same crescent gleams under the camera's hard light. The universe doesn't just sign, it doodles. Okay, I say, voice thin. So I skip York. I take High Street. End of story. You can, he says, or you can test me and see what happens when a rail insists you ride it. He sets his phone between us. The timer app is open, digits waiting to move. Before you decide, we make the rule explicit. This is the one you don't get to negotiate. Here it comes, I say. 1 minute rule, he says. 2 of us can't share the same physical minute for long. Stay close past 60 seconds. The burn starts. Nosebleed first, blackout next. Keep pushing, and it gets weirder. It's not drama, it's plumbing. The system clears the clog any way it can. 60 seconds, I repeat, like I'm tasting the edge of a blade. He thumbs the timer to life and steps in until our reflections overlap on the oven door. The air gets tight in the way a crowded elevator gets tight. At 32 seconds, something behind my eyes flickers like a bad fluorescent. At 45, my sinuses prickle. At 54, a warm line starts in my right nostril. He steps back at 57. The line fades. My breath evens. I grab a napkin anyway because proof is messy. You could have just told me, I say, pinching the bridge of my nose. I did, he says. You asked for proof. We stand apart like two magnets forced to behave. The apartment feels a fraction wider than it did 5 minutes ago. Out the window, the bridge blinks its own heartbeat. The blotter photo sits between us like a dare. So I change the route, I say. Take a different staircase, different time, different train. I ghost the whole minute. You could, he says. There's a shape in his voice I don't like. But rails, he says. The smallest habits tug. You'll check your watch. You'll walk faster at the deli doorway because you always walk faster there. You'll get stuck behind a stroller. You'll catch the crosswalk on the third blink. And the reroute will hand you back to the same clock with a different mask. The city is a river that remembers the bed you cut into it. I'm not a river, I say. I'm a grown man with legs. And a sister at noon, he says. And a review at 10:30. You can avoid York and pay later. Or you can go nowhere near it and someone else pays now. Someone else, I say, the phrase souring as it leaves. You mean the shove still happens. It moves, he says. It looks for the nearest version of itself. You decide if that version touches you or a stranger or Maya's afternoon. I picture High Street, the wide stair, the different coffee cart, the couple with the matching backpacks. I picture York, my 23 silent steps, the turnstile that always sticks on the second push, the stairwell camera that doesn't care who I am. I picture Serena asking for examples of leadership while I try not to bleed on her office rug. I picture Maya sliding into a diner booth and tapping her phone until I walk in, and the way her face changes when I do. Why warn me if everything snaps back, I ask. It doesn't snap, he says. It leans. Sometimes that's all it takes. I rub the espresso crescent on my cuff like I can smudge the future into a shape I like better. So what are my choices, really? Change the route and risk pushing the minute into somebody else's day, he says. Or test me, which is another way of saying test the rails, and commit to a plan that interrupts the minute before it becomes the thing you saw. Interrupt how? That's the next part, he says. You don't need the how to make the first choice. You only need to decide if you're done pretending this is random. I look at the photo one more time. The angle, the cup, the tilt of my jaw that always makes me look like I'm arguing. I don't know if I believe in destiny, but I believe in the part of me that would rather take a hit than hand it to somebody else. The timer app on his phone resets itself to zeros, blank and patient, like it can wait all night for me to grow up. He doesn't crowd me again. He stands by the doorway like a lifeguard who knows exactly where the undertow lives. Older eyes. Same scar by the wrist bone, same habit of pressing my tongue to my molars when I'm thinking. He holds up a watch I've never seen, the face a thin pain that wakes when his thumb brushes the rim. Icons bloom across the glass, service alerts, street closures, weather, all stamped for tomorrow. York St. delays expand like a storm cell. High Saint shows green, then flickers yellow, then steadies again. He tilts the watch so I can read the times. They're not guesses, they're scheduled like trains. It only mirrors what's already queued, he says, not predictions. Think of it as tomorrow's bulletin board loading early. You pulled a bulletin board out of your sleeve, I say. Forgive me for taking a lap around disbelief. He nods, then glances at the coffee mug on my island. He doesn't touch it. His fingers hover and push the air like he's moving chess. The mug slides an inch, as if a palm nudged it. At the same time, my phone, face down by the sink, pings and lights up. A duplicate calendar event that has been haunting the top of my day blinks, stutters, and vanishes. The phone settles like it forgot what it wanted to say. I flagged the mug when I came through the ripple, he says. Tiny entanglements are easier than big ones. We don't erase things. We tip them. You tipped my calendar out of my life. That was my clean shirt reminder. You'll still wear the shirt, he says. You'll think you remembered it on your own, that's the point. The clean version of the minute gets to exist. I'm not sure if fear or awe is doing the driving now. Both take turns with the wheel. So give me the rules, I say, all of them, no riddles. He takes a breath like he's about to pray or confess, then counts them off on my hand-shaped future. First, your anchor. Grandma's silver watch keeps you bound to now. If you lose it, you drift. Drift looks like daydreams that eat hours, or walking 3 blocks and not knowing how. Keep it close. I look at the dish by the sink, at the stubborn hands that never move past 11:07. The watch has been a superstition. He says it's a seatbelt. Second, temporal debt. Every overlap, every time we share space too long, costs you minutes. Your brain pays the bill first. Names blur, streets shuffle, it clears, but the fog is real. Cute, I say. So playing twinsies with myself gives me a short-term memory tax. Third, memory desync. When a loop closes, only one of us remembers what changed. The version of you that walks away with the timeline keeps the record, the other one keeps a feeling. That sounds fair, I say, and I don't mean it. Fourth, the 1-minute rule, you felt it. We can't share the same physical minute beyond 60 seconds without burn. We can orbit. We can tag in and out. But we don't hug it out. I touch the bridge of my nose, half expecting blood again. Nothing. I'm grateful in the way you're grateful for a light that finally stops buzzing. Fifth, he says, closed loop. This timeline prefers to reclose into what already happened. Branches try to form, then knit back if you don't anchor them. Don't assume chaos, assume gravity. So, no multiverse safety valves, I say. Just the single track trying to stay itself. Exactly. Sixth, no free fixes. Every save demands a trade. You don't get to pull a thread and keep the sweater whole. I let the list settle. It feels less like a lecture and more like instructions printed on the inside of my eyelids. Anchor, debt, desync, minute, loop, trade. They line up like turnstiles. If I want through, I pay. Okay, I say. Objective then. Clear language. Avoid York at 10:02, he says, which means you will miss something you want to keep, and you will dodge something you won't survive. I like the second half, I say, not wild about the first. You don't get the second without the first, he says. That's what the trade looks like. I want proof you're not gaming me, I say. Tell me something only I know. Or better, tell me something I don't know yet that lands in the next 60 seconds. He glances at the micro-HUD. Your neighbor knocks in 30 seconds to ask if you've seen his Yankees cap. You have. It's on your hook. You'll say you were about to drop it by. You weren't. You forgot. You'll make it sound like kindness when it's really luck. I stare at the door. 20 seconds. 15. 10. I hate how ready I am for the knock. When it comes, I jump like a kid in a haunted house. Mr. Alvarez's voice filters through the wood, patient and kind. Ethan, you got eyes on my cap? I grab the hat off the hook and open the door with a grin I haven't earned. Was about to bring it by, I tell him. He smiles at me like I'm better than I am. When I close the door, I feel like I borrowed a virtue and forgot to sign the clipboard. Fine, I say. You called that not a lottery number, but not nothing. Lottery numbers are noise, he says. We steer by minutes, not money. Fear loosens its grip, just enough for awe to take a turn. The room seems to focus. The skyline outside sharpens like it leaned closer. All the little taps I ignored this week arrange themselves into a sentence I can finally read. I don't like every word, but I respect the grammar. Here's my counter, I say. I keep the anchor on me. I respect the 1-minute rule. I accept that memory's going to fog if we share space too long. I assume the loop wants to close and that nothing I do is free. In exchange, you give me a plan that isn't just run away and hope someone else takes the hit. That's the deal, he says. What's the trade? I ask. You'll miss a shot at the promotion you think proves you're ready, he says. You'll keep someone else's bones unbroken. You'll keep your sister's noon uncomplicated. You'll buy yourself a timeline you can live inside. My mouth is dry. The plan tastes like metal before I even hear it. I need one more thing, I say. Tell me why you came this time and not last week, not next year. Because this is the minute you still believe you have options, he says. After 10:02, the rails get stronger. I needed you before the track hardens. I look at the mug he nudged and the calendar line that disappeared like chalk in rain. I look at the anchor dish and the stubborn hands forever stalled at 11:07. I look at the watch on his wrist, glowing with tomorrow's notices, and the scar that looks like mine because it is mine. Fear has done its job. Awe has done its job. What's left is simpler and meaner. Resolve doesn't feel like a movie speech. It feels like picking up a heavy box and walking anyway. All right, I say, let's build the plan, And if the loop wants to close, we'll hold it open just long enough to make sure no one gets shoved down a stairwell on my minute. He sets my phone on the counter, opens a map and draws a soft red circle around York. He names it a geofence like it's a neighborhood I'm banned from. If I even drift toward the station, the phone will scream. He sets a second alert for a smaller circle 2 blocks north, a point on the grid I've never cared about. 10:02 isn't just a time now, it's a moving target with my name scratched on it. He tells me the cost before I can ask. If we touch, memory pays first. Not a headache. Specific minutes go dark for a while. I reach past him for the mug, and our knuckles brush. It's nothing, just skin, but my brain hiccups. I try to replay Monday, coffee with Maya outside the hospital before her shift, and the real jams. I can see steam from the cup, but I can't see her face. I grip the counter with both hands until the world clicks again and her laugh returns, a second late, like a stream buffering. He watches me steady myself. He isn't pleased with the demonstration. He isn't cruel. He's making me speak the rule out loud, so I'll stop treating it like superstition. I repeat it. If we touch, I lose minutes. The debt clears, but I don't get the interest back. I ask who we're fighting. He says it isn't a villain, it's a knotted rope. The paradox wants to retie itself. The transit pattern wants to move bodies the way it always moves them. My habits want to put my feet where they've always gone. None of that is evil, he says, it's just gravity. The fight is against the slope, not a face. That's when he flips the plan. He hasn't come to keep me away from York. He's come to put me somewhere else at 10:02. It's not enough to dodge the shove. We have to steal a minute from it. There's a man with a blue backpack who always cuts through Old Dock toward York when the F-line coughs. He walks too fast for the stairs, checks his watch like the station owes him an apology, and lives by rails he doesn't know he laid. The shove is his, if it finds him with a crowd in front of him. If I meet him 2 blocks up and slow him 30 seconds with something small, a spilled coffee, a question, a moment of eye contact that interrupts the rhythm, the minute misses him and keeps moving. The disturbance becomes a complaint, not a bruise. The camera never gets the shot of my hoodie at the stairwell because I'm not there and he isn't either. I don't love the part where I play traffic cone for a stranger who will never know I stood between him and his worst impulse. I don't love the part where 10:02 leans into 10:30 and my review becomes an exercise in pretending I'm not late. He sees all that on my face. He waits anyway. I check the time, the map circles, the distance. If I leave early, the intercept is clean, and I can still make the meeting on the edge of breath. If anything goes sideways, Serena gets a version of me that looks like an excuse. I can hear my mother's voice, and Maya's voice, and my own voice as a younger man, all saying different things about what matters. I ask him why the blue backpack guy and not me. He says rails again. If I spend the morning fleeing, the minute finds me in a different mask. If I spend the morning intervening, the minute has to settle for less. The paradox doesn't get to close on a shove if the shove has a body to land in. It sounds like philosophy until I picture the backpack guy's hands on someone's shoulders and a staircase that doesn't forgive gravity. I say it plain so I can't wriggle out later. I'll intercept him on Old Dock at 9:59. I'll say something dumb if I have to. I'll spill a coffee if I have to. I'll take the hit if someone needs a target. If it pushes me 10 minutes late, I'll walk into Serena's office with fresh air on my jacket and let the chips do what chips do. I'm not proud of the petty calculations that still swirl behind the decision. I am proud of the sentence I finish. At 10:02, I belong on that corner, not at those stairs. He nods once, relief and worry braided together. He shows me the route that doesn't wake the geofence and the deli, with a line long enough to eat the extra seconds if the backpack guy is early. He sets the alarm tone to something I won't ignore. He tells me to keep the anchor on my wrist and to keep my distance from him like we're both live wires. I pocket my phone and feel the map pulsing like a second heartbeat. The city outside keeps pretending it's the same as it always was. Inside, the clock to 10:02 starts for real. I leave early, steering for High Street like a man trying to outwalk a rumor. The morning is cool and mean. Trucks hiss along the cobbles. I keep my phone in my palm, the York geofence glowing like a perimeter only I can see. I'm halfway down the block when the service alert on my screen blinks from yellow to green to yellow again, like the city is clearing its throat. High Street shows a delay that wasn't there 2 minutes ago. York goes from partial closure to expect crowding in a tone that sounds almost cheerful. The map doesn't argue. It nudges. Maya calls. I answer, because not answering is a sentence I don't want to read later. She asks if I'm still good for noon. I tell her I'm excited, which is true and not the point. She asks why I sound like I'm jogging. I tell her I'm getting a head start on the day. She says, "Don't be late, bro," and I say I won't be. I hang up and immediately hate that I've just made a promise to time itself. I keep to the plan. Old dock by 9:59, blue backpack interception, small nudge, minute diverted. The geo fence is supposed to yell if I drift. It doesn't. Maybe I held the phone wrong. Maybe the circle lost a pixel. I look up and the stairs in front of me are the wrong stairs. The York tiles with their chipped edge. The stairwell camera mounted like a bored eye. My chest goes cold. The loop pulls the way a riptide pulls. Quiet, convincing, almost kind. I step back fast, cut left, and put a delivery truck between me and the entrance like it's a shield. In my ear, the Bluetooth whisper comes alive. He keeps his voice dry like weather. 2 steps east, hold at the bodega. Cross after the stroller. He narrates me back toward the route we drew on the counter. A dull pressure builds behind my eyes, even though I can't see him. The burn timer ticks whenever he wanders too close. I feel the warmth in my sinuses and sidestep into cool air. We keep our distance like we're dancing a routine we practiced in different lives. At 9:56, I'm at Old Dock, right where he wanted me, with a coffee I don't want in my left hand and a calm I don't deserve. People move like weather systems. The micro-habits we never think about are loud to me now. Who checks a watch? Who speeds up at a curb? Who cuts a corner to feel in control? The blue backpack comes into view at 9:58, head down, pace set by some metronome only he hears. He clears the first crosswalk without looking. He adjusts the strap. He is on rails. If I let him pass, the minute meets him at the stairwell. If I step in, I become the story he tells himself about why he was late. I step. I'm as gentle as I can be and still be annoying. I raise my cup and pivot, just enough that we bump. Coffee kisses the sleeve of his jacket, nothing that will scar, something that will require a dab with a napkin. I apologize twice, sincere both times. He swears without heat and reaches for a napkin offered by the universe in the form of a deli counter kid. 30 seconds slide off his schedule like loose change. He checks his watch, then checks the station entrance, then looks at me again with the specific fury of a person who loves to be on time. It works. It works, and I can feel it working. The minute that wanted him at the York stairs misses and keeps moving. I step back into the crowd, my heart getting ahead of itself, already writing an ending where I make it to my review breathless and brilliant, and somehow both of those things are charming. That's when my phone buzzes with a different kind of gravity. Serena. Where's tomorrow's deck? I'm armed with half a draft and a good angle. I can stop here, run home, polish, rehearse, and walk into 10:30, looking like I deserve the ladder. The text stares at me like a choice I want to deserve later. I ignore it. I pick saving a stranger over looking good. It doesn't feel noble. It feels like choosing a lane when both will charge a toll. He murmurs in my ear that the ripple moved. The shove didn't die. It lost its host and went shopping. The micro-HUD shows a new pattern forming closer to my building, a knot that tightens where the crowd squeezes to let a truck nose out. We go again. We triangulate by behavior, not by bad intentions. A man with a rolling suitcase who clips corners, a teen with headphones who drifts into people without noticing, a tourist couple who pause for a photo at the wrong edge. The minute is a wheel looking for a spoke. If we can slow the right hub, the wheel rolls past without catching. At 10:01, we're in the shadow of my block and I hate how close this feels. He tells me to hold 30 feet back from the rolling suitcase and let my shadow be the obstacle instead of my body. The burn nibble returns. He must be near. I pivot away, let the pressure fade, then cut in again. The suitcase clips my heel and I overreact on purpose. A small theater. Hands up, sorry man, my fault. He stops because I stop, the way people do when you show them you're both human. 5 seconds, 10. A truck eases out. The crowd ripples. The suitcase chooses a different slice of sidewalk. The minute sighs and moves. The shove that wanted to bloom here has to settle for a grumble. I can feel the city exhale around me. My boss pings again. A second text joins the first. Need that deck by 10. I type, almost hit send, then delete the draft. I want to be the person who can do both, save a stranger and ace a review, but time keeps asking for exact change. He calls a final adjustment. The last potential shove is a middle-aged guy in a suit, jaw set, gait tight, the kind of morning that eats a person from the inside. He's aimed at a narrow slice of sidewalk, where 2 cafe tables make a chute. If he meets hesitation there, the anger will look for shoulders. I thread the gap first and hold the door for a woman juggling a carrier with 4 coffees. It slows me. It slows him. It slows the street. The minute that has been hunting us glances off and keeps going. We stand in the open air and listen to nothing happen. It is the best sound I've ever heard. My phone says 9:59 rolled into 10:03 without anyone falling. The geofence purrs a content little chime as if it did all the work. He breathes once, steady, then tells me the coordinates like a coach calling the end of practice. Old dock held, York cleared, new shove point dodged. Collateral rises anyway. Serena stops texting and starts composing, which is worse. I can feel the email collecting itself. I'll owe her a version of the truth I can actually say aloud. I'll owe Maya a punctual brother at noon, which means walking away from this corner right now and trusting the plan we just executed. We look at each other across a safe distance. He gives me the smallest nod. The river moves like it always has. The rails feel lighter, which is not the same as gone. We have the window mapped, 9:59 to 10:03. We used it. Now I have to carry the bill. The minute won't die politely. It keeps looking for a place to land, testing seams like water. I can feel it even after old Doc slides past without a bruise. The crowd thins, then tightens again around the corner by my building, where a delivery van noses out and pedestrians squeeze themselves into a narrow lane. The blue backpack guy is long gone, redirected by a napkin and my clumsy apology. But a new center of gravity forms, a man in a suit, jaw locked, late enough to be dangerous. He's not wicked. He's wound. The lane wants a shove to clear it. The lane wants a story it knows how to tell. I touch my wrist out of habit and feel the cool weight of the silver watch. The anchor hums like a small promise. He catches the glance from 30 feet away and shakes his head once. The plan asks for one more step I don't like. If I keep the watch, the loop closes on me. If I let it go, I can move faster and pull the last knot without taking the minute into my chest. I hate every part of that logic and trust it anyway. We do the exchange like a bomb-handling drill. I close the distance in a straight line, counting under my breath. He meets me halfway, arm out, palm up. I slide the watch into his hand. Our shoulders share the same square of air, and the world tightens like a belt. A warmth pricks the inside of my nose at 58 seconds. He's already pivoting back, widening the gap, tucking the anchor into his pocket, like a lifeguard stowing a float. I don't look to see if my eyes have gone glassy. I don't have the seconds to indulge vanity. I have a lane to keep from choosing violence. The man in the suit hits the pinch point at the same moment a woman with a tote bag hesitates, unsure which table to edge past. It's the smallest pause, the kind that usually means nothing. Today it's a hinge. He lifts a hand, not in greeting, not in warning, something. Halfway to a push he'll frame later as clearing space. I put myself in front of it. Not a heroic leap, a step. My body is just a thing between two other things. "Hey, my bad," I say before he can speak, voice steady because I force it to be. "Let me make room." He bristles on reflex. Late people do. Underneath it, I see the part that is pleased to be challenged, because anger keeps you warm. He starts a sentence I've heard 1,000 ways. "Watch where you're going, man." But I clip it with a small joke about the van trying to merge and the sidewalk pretending to be a hallway. It's nothing. It's dumb. It gives him a line to step onto that isn't a shove. He takes it nearly. His shoulder loosens. His mouth finds the shape of a sigh instead of a word. Then a bag tips. Someone at the cafe is balancing too many things, and one of them gives up. The tote on the chair slides, catches the table leg, and drags the whole idea of grace toward the sidewalk. A bottle wobbles like a bad coin. The woman with the coffees whips her attention toward the sound. The man in the suit flinches and reaches, and every prepared sentence in me scrambles to keep the world from picking the wrong next beat. I step into the path of the falling bag and grab it before it hits the ground. It's heavier than I expect and yanks my arm down. The coffees slosh. A straw flies and clinks off my shoe. The man's hand is now inches from me, palm open. If I back away fast, he might shove on reflex. If I hold my ground and make the moment a favor instead of a fight, the energy changes. "Thanks," the woman says, breathless, and reaches for the bag. The man's hand closes on the back of the chair instead of a shoulder. He steadies it like he meant to help all along. It's a lie he can live with, and I offer it to him with a nod that says, "I saw your better self even if it arrived late." He takes it. The lane opens, people move. The minute complains and keeps going. A uniform steps in from the curb, drawn by the almost of the scene rather than the scene itself. He asks what happened. The woman talks. The suit talks. Everybody talks a little too fast. I stay calm and ordinary on purpose. The officer asks me for ID. He tells me I shouldn't block the lane, and I tell him he's right. He asks if I've had issues at the station before, and I hear the script that ends badly, so I answer like a person with a job who is late for it and not a disaster looking for a place to detonate. He writes a citation for obstructing pedestrian flow, the kind of paper New York uses to remind you it noticed you. I sign it. It's the smallest price that still counts as a price. I can feel my HR review sliding from possibility to story. I will tell myself with a better ending. I hate it. I accept it. I make sure my voice stays respectful so the crowd quiets instead of curdles. When the officer wanders back to his radius and the lane breathes again, I look up. Across the way, where the sun breaks between buildings, he stands half in light, half in shade. The posture I know from mirrors adjusted by time. The anchor sits in his palm. For a second I think he's waiting for me to reclaim it. Then I realize the instant has already moved. The loop has found the shape it wanted and begun to harden. He doesn't wave, he doesn't need to. He simply thins, the way fog thins when you don't watch it. A detail, then a suggestion, then not there. The air tastes like nothing at all. My nose bleeds one clean line onto the back of my hand, and I press it away with the corner of my sleeve. Memory fuzz hums through me, a tuning fork that can't decide which note it prefers. It settles on now. I take one breath, then another. The street returns to being a street. The man in the suit has already become a person who held a chair. The woman with the coffees has already become a person who didn't spill. The van is just a van. My phone buzzes once in my pocket, and I don't need to look to know it isn't good news for 10:30. I chose the version of me that a stranger won't meet at an emergency room. I chose the version of today where my sister's noon stays boring and bright. None of it feels magical. It feels like carrying a heavy box down 4 flights without complaining because someone has to. It's my choice, not a gadget's. If I ever get the promotion, it will be on a different minute. If I don't, I'll still know which lane I'm willing to stand in. I walk the last block home, like the city agreed to lower its voice for a minute. The knot is gone, the lane is just a lane again. I wipe the last line of blood from under my nose and breathe until the air stops feeling borrowed. When I reach my building, the hallway door catches a cross breeze and swings wider than it should. For an instant the light seems to fold, the way it did when he arrived, and then it's only a draft of cold air sliding past my ankles. I look at my wrist out of habit and find nothing but a pale imprint where the silver watch should be. My phone buzzes with 2 messages. The first is from Serena, crisp and kind, in the way that tells you it's not the news you wanted. "Let's reschedule your review for next week. Handle what you need to today." The wording is calm. The meaning is the snippet he showed me. I stare at the subject line, reschedule, performance review, and can feel the loop click into place. The proof he brought exists because I choose this path. I choose this path because he brought the proof. Bootstrap, neat and smug. The second message is from Maya. Proud of you. Brunch after your review anyway. She doesn't know the details. She doesn't need them. She knows the shape of the person I try to be, and today I managed to match it for 10 minutes when it counted. I tell her noon works and leave out everything that would keep her awake on a day she needs sleep. She replies with a heart and a pancake stack. I exhale hard enough to feel human again. Inside, the apartment is exactly as I left it, and not at all. The dish by the sink holds the faint circle from the watch's back like a watermark. The Polaroid on the fridge shows two people laughing so hard they slid out of the frame, and I believe again that anything can be the center of a life if you guard it. I make coffee and set the mug down where he nudged it last night. I try to replay Monday, the first coffee with Maya this week, and the film stutters on a blank a few seconds long. The steam is there. The laughter returns late. The face arrives after a beat, like a page that needed a second to load. Memory desync keeps its petty bill. Only I recall the coffee that never happened cleanly, and the wet ink that did. It's quiet enough to hear my phone when a third notification lands. Not a text. A voicemail with no caller ID, time-stamped in a way that makes my skin tense. Scheduled delivery, July 8th, 2055. The subject line says, "Play when ready." I don't touch it. Not yet. I let it sit there like a sealed envelope addressed in my handwriting, waiting on a day I can stand to hear myself from farther away. In the mirror above the sink, I look like a man who chose 1 minute on purpose. The city outside pretends it didn't notice. That's fine. I notice. The paper he dropped is folded on the counter, edges crisp. I slide it into the drawer with the spare keys and the good batteries, where you keep the things you don't want to throw away, but don't want to live on the counter either. I rinse my hands, pat my wrist, and feel the empty space where the watch rested do its quiet work, an imprint that reminds me where now belongs and what it costs to keep it. I rinse the last of the blood from under my nose and lean on the sink until the room steadies. The imprint of the watch on my wrist is a pale circle, a reminder without the weight. I hear my own voice in my head, the one he left behind like a note on the counter. If time taps your shoulder, it won't always offer a win, it asks a price. Today I paid with a meeting and a little pride, so a stranger didn't pay with bone and blame. It doesn't make me a hero, it just makes the math honest. I keep thinking about how small the hinge was, the pause at a table, the angle of a bag, a word offered fast enough to change someone's mind. Avoiding 1 minute can change every other. It won't fix everything, it won't make the city kinder, but it can pull one sharp tooth from a day that was ready to bite. Maya's text glows on my screen like a porch light. Brunch is still on. The voicemail from 2055 waits like a sealed envelope I'm not ready to open. For now I breathe. I put on the clean shirt, and I step back into a timeline I can live with. If you were me, standing at 10:02 a.m., what would you trade to skip it? Tell me below. New story next day.